Hello YouTube, it's Time here with Hobbies of Man once again, and today we are doing another Kaiju 8 chapter review. Today we're going to be looking at chapter 55, and it's good to be back. It's been about a month since we had any Kaiju number 8 chapters. The manga took a bit of a hiatus to kind of decide where the story was going, and it actually looks like it's going to go in the direction everyone kind of thought. However, I'm curious to see how the story is going to develop after that, because we're finally approaching like the big bad, or like the first big bad, but I don't know if that's going to spiral into something larger or if it's just going to stay kind of neutral, right? So we'll see how it goes. In terms of news, I don't have anything. I haven't thought of anything. The first 5 volumes have been selling really, really well. Japan is really loving it. There was an announcement that it's coming to Mexico pretty soon here. The US is already on track. Volume 2 should come out sometime in April. I think April 9th is when it comes out. And I haven't seen any information about Kaiju number 8, Volume 6. However, there has been a recently created Kaiju number 8 specific Twitter account. And that's really good. That seems to be pointing towards possibly, this story going on for quite a long time and actually developing into an anime or something like that. It seems like the manga has decided to push for the new Twitter account, and it's going to become its own kind of thing, which I'm kind of interested in. Hopefully that does mean that we get an anime here soon. It's going to be pretty interesting, so we'll see how that goes. But let's jump into the recap here. Last chapter, chapter 54, really was the end of this first section of the storytelling, as far as I can kind of tell here. Isao Shinomiya has died, and Japan and the Defense Force itself are reeling from this revelation, right? They can't believe that it's happened. Mr. Isao was this powerful, very important character to the Japan Defense Force and to Japan itself, and him having died is kind of problematic and concerning for these people, which totally makes sense, right? So this is kind of interesting. It kind of brings into play like this concern, right? Like what's going to happen after this, which I think is totally justified and understandable. So I'm curious to see how they're going to handle this, right? But this happened. Kafka has something on his hand. It looks like his body isn't returning to human fully. He had like a stripe of kaiju skin on his hand, and he was kind of looking at it and deciding what to do. And what else was happening in that episode or that chapter? I think Hikaru wanted to get stronger. She went and talked to Narumi about it, and she was like, "Hey man, I couldn't do anything. Everyone had to save me again. I had a promise for my father and for my mother, and I never managed to complete it. Please help me get stronger. I want to be the very best." And Narumi's like, "Bet, I'll make it so that the only person that could possibly ever beat you is me." And that's where that ends. So this new chapter here started with it's 29 pages, which is pretty good. It's 10 pages more than usual, which is great. However, it didn't really have any action. It's all based around setting up this new part of the story, which I think is great. I loved it. I really enjoy where we went and what kind of happened here. So it opens on some kaiju dismantlers using these heat chainsaws to try to cut open these ant kaiju, but they're not really being successful. It looks like these kaiju are way too strong, like their hide is too strong, their exoskeleton is too strong, and they need to figure out something else to do. This section here takes about 2 or 3 pages, maybe 4. And it's actually really good because it sets up the thought process of the normal Japanese person, which I think is very, very good. It's a lot of world building in this section. Basically, there's these 4 different Japanese kaiju sweeper guys. One of them is kind of very into the idea that he has to do the work that he has to do because it's very important, and the other ones are kind of contemplating the decision to leave the country because it's dangerous, right? And so what happens is that this guy is like, "No, what the hell's wrong with you? Or this is our job. Who the hell's gonna do this if we all escape, if we all leave, if we all like cowards, escape the country. And one of these guys is like, oh man, this guy is pretty cool when he tries to be, right, or whatever, or when he can't, when he's no, really acts correctly. And then they're like making a joke about how he owes them money, which was pretty good. But they also helped set up this idea that Isao Shinomiya was the national hero. He was the strongest person ever, and the fact that he has died has really put this pressure on the Japanese Defense Force, and has kind of started this sense of unease for the Japanese people, which I think was also really good. And that's basically all that happens there, right? So I think it was wonderful that they added that. It was very necessary. It really adds a lot to the world, and it makes the relationship between the Japanese Defense Force and actual Japan feel very meaningful. So I love that quite a bit. Then we shift over to Ariake Maritime Base, where Kikoru is practicing with Shinonome, this older Japanese Defense Force lady who happens to be in the 1st Division in the same platoon as Narumi and stuff, while Narumi overseas. And he's chilling on this like lounge chair, like this beach lounge chair or whatever. He has a little umbrella on top of him and crap. And he's just on his phone, right? And eventually he's like, you know what? I'm bored. Kikoru, you're not really doing anything that much. You're not doing anything at all. It's really not, much of a development here. I thought you wanted to be the strongest. He basically really riles her up. And he talks about how he's only going to give her 1 month in order to develop the skills that she needs to be so prodigal at fighting that she could beat anyone else on the 1st Division, which is kind of like an impossible task, but it is exactly the type of push Kikoru needs, which I thought was great. I think Narumi really understands this, the effect that Shinomiya, Mr. Isao dying, had on Kikoru, and he also understands the drive that Kikoru has. So I like that quite a bit. It shows that he's not stupid. He's just kind of lazy, and that's not necessarily a bad thing, because when it comes down to the important thing, to the wire, he really does know what to do. So Kikoru gets riled up, and she asks Shinonome to fight with her once again, and Shinonome is like, man, this is getting me fired up too. And they start fighting really, really strongly, really fast. And then Mr. Number 2, I can't remember his name, he for the 1st Division, he shows up and he's like, he kicks Narumi. He's like, you have to go to work. What are we gonna do about Kaiju number 8? So this really has this interesting bit here where they're like talking about how with Mr. Shinomiya gone, the only person that has enough power in the Japanese division to say anything about Kaiju number 8 is you. So what are you gonna do with him? And then we cut to this scene where Kafka's hooked up to some medical equipment, and we clearly see his hand, and apparently Kafka is going through Kaijuification processes that are basically unstoppable. They don't know how they work, they don't know what to do with them, and basically they have determined that if Kafka continues to use his transformation, he will eventually lose the ability to become a person again, which is pretty concerning, and it's really interesting because this sets him directly in conflict with Kaiju number 9. If Kafka continues to turn into a kaiju, but he loses humanity, does that mean that if Kaiju number 9 continues to turn into a person, does he gain humanity? How does that work? I think that's a very interesting kind of thought process there. But of course, number 9 is definitely the villain character, so I very much doubt that he's going to do that. So I think that he is able to just put on the veneer of humanity, whereas Kafka is definitely turning into a human. And so I'm curious to see if that's going to become a plot point that, maybe eventually is realized, like, hey man, I'm becoming a kaiju. How can I at least attempt to look like a person so I can continue to live my life normally? And Kaiju number 9 might be like, I don't know. Fuck you, man. I'm the bad guy here. And it might be interesting to see how that goes. But eventually we get to see Kafka sitting in a bench and thinking about the fact that, now that they know this, now that they have found out that he has, this issue, they might not let him fight anymore, and that's bad. He kind of thinks of it more in the sense that, like, it's a liability to have someone just turning into a kaiju, more than, like, they care about his life. And I think that makes sense, especially because Narumi shows up, and he's like, hey man, I don't give a shit about your personality or your personal desires or needs. I just need your power, and I don't care if you die. I don't care if you become a kaiju, because I'm just gonna kill you. And I know that you basically feel the same way. And Kafka is like, you know what? I have somewhere to be. I have something that I need to do. I need to reach, which is, you know, become a captain so that he can be on par with Mina. I don't care either. I'm going to do what I need to do. He says, I'm ready and willing. And that was really, really good. So I really like this. I think it's very, very powerful, very interesting. Then we switch over to Tachikawa City, where Narumi shows up into a lab, and Kaiju number 10 is just chilling in a vat of you know, science liquid, which is really interesting. It's just his head and his spinal cord leading to his core. So what the hell is going on here, man? I have no clue. I'm guessing that we're gonna see how they develop powers, special numbers weapons, which I think is really, really cool. I think that's a very cool, interesting way to go this route, and this could be its own little arc where it's like, hey, weapons development arc before we can continue, and maybe this is the weapon that they create for Kikoru, or Narumi gets a third weapon to develop for himself, or, you know, something else happens. So I'm really curious about this, and I'm really excited to see where it goes. So yeah, I don't really have any theories. Like I mentioned, two different kind of ideas here. One, that number 10 turns into a numbers weapon, which really isn't a theory. It's probably all likelihood exactly what's going to happen. And the other one being the whole kind of duality between number 9 and number 8, where Kafka loses his humanity, turns into kaiju, and number 9 gains humanity and turns into a human. Or I very much doubt that that's the route that they're going to go, because this isn't really like a Tokyo Ghoul, Ajin, demi-human, or, you know, kind of Dragon Slayer from Fairy Tail kind of thing, where it's like this process that they go through that maybe they don't want, that really psychologically affects them. It doesn't really seem to be the case. It just might be like a byproduct of, you know, being a thing that is of both natures. So I don't really see that it being a storyline that they choose to go with, but it might be interesting to see if that happens, and it would at least be very good for like theory videos. So yeah. However, that's not really my jive, so I'm not going to do any theory videos. I'm just going to add them into these chapter reviews. But that's all I have to say about this chapter. I thought it was really great. I think it's a great reintroduction into the world of Kaiju number 8. I love the color page that was in the middle of the story. Hopefully, they bring that over to the US in the books, but who knows? It might not be a thing that happens. But yeah, that's all I have to say about that. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave a like, subscribe, and comment down below. Let me know what you thought, and thank you guys very much for watching. See you guys later.